guys, it's your girl T, and it's time for another recap of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. So yesterday, of course, was the season finale, and I'm really going to miss this show. We had a good old funky time on Twitter last night, so let's go ahead and get started with the recap. So in the opening scene, we have Kandi and Todd, and they're sitting there talking about the prenup, and basically Todd is concerned because he wants to make sure that his assets are protected as well, and he wants to feel like, you know what, I'm helping you with this play of a mother's love, and if anything goes down, you know, would I get anything from that? And Kandi's telling him, you know, well, we can go over that, you know, we can get everything, you know, put into the prenup. And Todd feels like he wants a lawyer brought in, and Kandi's like, I don't see the big deal because when, you know, Phaedra and Apollo got married, Apollo just signed his prenup, and when Cynthia and Peter got married, Peter just signed his prenup. And Todd's looking at Kandi like, and what the hell do they got to do with me? First of all, Apollo's a criminal, so he had no choice but to sign the prenup. And second of all, Peter brings nothing to the table, so of course you knew he was going to sign the prenup. So I guess for me, it seemed like Todd just wanted to protect himself as well. And Kandi agreed. You know, she felt like, okay, being that they did a mother's love together, she would have no problem giving Todd some of those assets in the event that they end up breaking up. But she wants to make sure that she's protected for everything that she did before she met Todd, like the songs that she's written, you know, her shows with Escape, her CDs, her #1 albums, all that stuff, Bedroom Kandi. She wants to make sure that all that's protected, and I give Kandi props for that. I'm glad that she didn't just jump into her marriage blindly. I'm glad that she thought about doing a prenup and, you know, having him sign it. So after they talked everything out, Todd agreed to sign the prenup. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Kenya, her Aunt Lori, Cynthia, her dog, and supposedly rumor has it that the invisible African prince was there as well, but I couldn't see his invisible ass because I don't have x-ray vision. So they're all there in some weird remote location. They're there to bury Velvet, and Kenya's just crying. She's breaking down, and Aunt Lori asks Cynthia to say prayer. So Cynthia starts saying a prayer for Velvet, and as she's praying, she doesn't know if Velvet's a he or she. She slips up, and Cynthia's dog does not want any parts of this. The dog is literally trying to jump out of Cynthia's hands like, leave me the hell alone. I don't know what y'all got going on here, but something ain't right. The dog is trying to run away. Cynthia's trying to hold on to the dog while she's saying the prayer. The whole situation just got me laughing. It was to the point where I had to tweet Sheree and ask Sheree, is this taking place at Chateau Sheree? Because this whole situation looks familiar to me. This whole location looks like we've seen this before in previous episodes of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. Tell me that ground and all them rocks and everything did not look like the same plot that we seen a few seasons ago with She by Sheree. Sheree didn't respond back, but I still believe that Velvet is buried at Chateau Sheree. I just find the whole situation just crazy and comical. A lot of folks were still accusing her of basically faking this funeral and faking Velvet's death. It's also come out that Kenya has another dog who looks just like Velvet. I mean, I really feel like that dog that she has now is Velvet. And if it's not Velvet, I just don't feel like Velvet died. I honestly feel like Velvet is somewhere in Cuba, chilling with Tupac, talking about ain't nothing but a gangster party. I'm not buying this shit whatsoever. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, we have Phaedra and Apollo, and Phaedra has graduated mortuary school, and she's so excited. She's embalmed over 100 bodies, and little Aiden is there with his little articulate, cute self, and he's like, Mommy, you did such a good job. You graduated school. Congratulations, Mommy. And, you know, he goes to go hug his mother, and he's just so happy. He's beaming with joy, and Apollo's sitting there, and he can't even strum 2 words together. He's like, yeah, baby, yeah, congratulations, babe. You worked real hard, babe. And I'm sitting here like, why is their 4-year-old son more articulate than the father? You know, I just find the whole situation funny. And, you know, Apollo then asks Phaedra what are her plans, what does she plan on doing now that she's graduated school? And Phaedra's like, you know, she plans to open up her own crematorium and her own funeral parlor, and she wants to be fly. She wants to, you know, she wants to branch on her own and open up her own business. You know, and I just find the whole situation funny and comical, you know, that she's basically living the American dream of being a self-sustaining business owner based off of other people's money and, you know, stolen identities and everything else. So congratulations to Phaedra and Apollo for living the American dream and being thieves all the while doing it. Moving on to the next scene. The next scene we have Porsha. Porsha decides to invite her mother and her sister over to her house, and they're talking about the whole divorce situation with Cordell. Once again, she's milking the situation, and her mom is telling her she's very proud of Porsha. She's come a long way. She's such a strong woman. Even though she's missed a few days at church and everything else, she's still proud of her, and that God is basically looking out for Porsha. And Porsha's saying this whole situation has made her stronger, and she's not even tripping off of not getting any money from Cordell, not any alimony, not any any assets, and I feel like she's full of shit. She's salty. A lot of folks on Twitter had the nerve to knock Cordell and say that Cordell was cheap. Why should Cordell come out of pocket for anything? He protect his assets. Porsha didn't come to the relationship with anything. She signed the prenup. From what I heard, she brought no assets to the relationship, so she left with nothing. I mean, it is what it is. So then Porsha's mom, Diane, asks Porsha, what are you going to do with the ring? You know, you've been wearing that ring. Are you going to get rid of it? What are you going to do? So Porsha says, you know what? I'm a big girl now. I feel like it's time for me to get rid of the ring and move on. So Porsha proceeds to take out this big ass rock on her finger. That damn ring was cold as hell. She takes the ring off, and instead of her putting it up in the room, putting it in the safe, she decides to drop it in the glass of champagne. So she drops in the glass of champagne, and they all walk out the room. And I'm sitting here looking at this whole scene like this. Bitch, really? Don't front for the cameras. You know damn well Porsha's ass ran right back to the living room, pulled that ring out the glass, and took her ass to the nearest pawn shop and got her some money. She may have not walked away with any type of alimony or any type of assets, but that ring is an asset. And best believe if she was smart, she would pawn that ring and get some money for it. Moving on to the next scene. The next scene, we have Cynthia and Angry Face Mal. And I'm shocked to see Mal because this show has been on for literally 4 months. Mal claimed she was only going to be there for 2 months. It's been 4 months and Mal is still in Cynthia's house with an angry damn face on. So she's in the kitchen and Cynthia's asking Mal, you know, I want to be really sexy for Peter. I finally want to give him some. This man has literally went all season without getting no ass from Cynthia. So she decides to basically, you know, dress up sexy, but she doesn't know how to be sexy for her own husband. And I just found this whole situation is really, really awkward and strange. You are supposed to be a model teacher. You're supposed to teach girls how to model and exude confidence and, you know, sex appeal and everything else. You don't know how to exude those same traits for your husband. You know, Mal got her smoking a cigarette, trying to look sexy, but Cynthia just comes off as looking stupid. She's coughing and choking and everything else. And then she's like, you know, I think I might sit like this with my legs spread open. And Mal's like, no, you might not want to do that because we can see your spandex. And I'm like, who the hell wears spandex trying to be, you know, sexy for their husband? If you want to be sexy, you put on some little bit of lingerie, you don't wear no panties, and you get it in. It's like she was just doing so much, and it just seemed like she was trying to do everything for the camera, and nobody was buying it. Uncle Ben's Rice literally starts laughing in her face. He starts cracking up. He's like, what are you doing? You know, why are you trying to be all sexy? This isn't even you. Yeah, and she's like, well, I want to give you some, and I'm trying to exude sex appeal. And he's just like, well, I'm not really buying it. You know, if you want to give me some, just give me some. And then she says, well, let me take you upstairs. I want to twerk for you. And then he just breaks out into this laughter. And he's like, we all know you can't twerk. You can't dance, Cynthia. What are you talking about? And Uncle Ben just literally clowns her, and she just feels totally stupid. This whole scene just basically left Cynthia with a bunch of egg on her face. Moving on to the next scene. On the next scene, we have NeNe and Geritol Greg. And basically, NeNe just got back from traveling from LA, and she's not feeling really good. She has a lot of chest pains. She's feeling a lot of pain underneath her breastbone. And literally, Greg is right there at the door like a little lap dog. And he's like, you know, what's wrong, NeNe? And he runs to the kitchen to go get her some Alka-Seltzer water. And he's talking to her, and he's like, you know, you need to drink this. It's going to make you feel better. And I'm sitting there the whole time like, does Greg work? Does Greg have a job? Yeah or nah? Because it just seems like Greg don't do shit but just wait at home for NeNe to get home so that way he can wait on her every beck and call. And NeNe's like, I just don't feel good. And Greg's like, you know what? I think I might have to take you to the hospital. Well, later it comes out that NeNe is sick from having blood clots, and that is very serious. You know, I hope everything is better with NeNe. Moving on to the next scene. So in the next scene, it's the day of the big play, and Porsha's laying down, and once again, Miss Lark is on Porsha's ass, and she goes to wake Porsha up, and she's telling Porsha, you know what, if you forget any of your lines, if you forget the song, you need to just improvise, but we don't need you messing up. I need you to be on point. You missed a lot of rehearsals. And Porsha's like, okay, I got it, bitch. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm not going to let you down. You know, you can tell she's basically tired of Miss Lark. She's still trying to be respectful to her, so she basically promises Miss Lark that she's going to do her thing. So later on, people start coming in, and you have Apollo, Phaedra, Cynthia, you know, Peter, they're all arriving. You have Stevie J, you have Niecy Nash, you have a lot of folks coming in, and then lo and behold, you have Tyler Perry is at A Mother's Love, and he's basically in the audience, and y'all know good and damn well his ass was taking notes. He was taking notes for his next damn play. And from what I hear, rumor has it the next Tyler Perry production is going to be called Medea's Love. So y'all stay tuned, it's going to be hitting theaters very shortly. So in the next scene, everybody's waiting for Mama Joyce, and she finally arrives. And what's so funny is that Eddie Levert decides to throw some shade. And Eddie Levert is like, you're not really that bad, are you? Because in the play, you just sound like a really bad, horrible person to deal with. And Mama Joyce is looking real uncomfortable like, I know this bitch should not put me on blast like that. You know, and it was just like a real kind of awkward moment. And she's like, well, I don't know. I haven't seen the play, but I'm going to watch the play along with everybody else. And we're just going to have to see. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. So moving on to the next scene. So anyways, so back to the play. Kandi's on stage. It opens up with Kandi and Porsha. And they're doing a really good job. They're dancing. It's a lot of entertainment. And then Porsha does her solo act. And I think, to me personally, Porsha did a good job. She has a pretty decent voice. Some folks are trying to roast her and going on her on Twitter. But I thought Porsha did a really good job. You know, her mother was really proud of her. Her sister was proud of her. A lot of folks were really shocked to see Porsha really belt it out and put her all into that role. Q was on stage and he was singing his heart out. And it was so funny because every now and then they would, you know, flip the camera to Mama Joyce's face. And the whole time Mama Joyce was just sitting there looking like this. Mama Joyce looked like she had zero fucks to give about the whole production, but she was there basically to support her daughter. Moving on to the next scene. After the play, Todd's mother comes backstage. Come congratulate Todd and Kandi. Mama Joyce walks backstage to talk to Kandi, and she basically tells Kandi that she likes the play. She's not giving Kandi her blessing, but she tells Kandi that you're grown and you can do what you want to do. You know, what you decide to do is your business. So, you know, I feel like, okay, well, at least she met Kandi halfway. So you can tell Kandi's really happy. And then in the next scene, we see Kandi's father. We've never seen Kandi's father on this show, and Kandi's daddy is fine as hell. So Kandi's dad is talking to her. Very reasonable. He's very rational. He's saying that, you know what, he's proud of Kandi. He's proud of all the hard work that she put into this production, and he just wants his daughter to be happy, and he feels like Todd really loves Kandi and that they make a good match, and that he will be there to support his daughter no matter what, and that Kandi should not let anybody's opinions affect her or affect her relationship with Todd. So it's really good to see her father standing behind her and standing behind her relationship. Moving on to the next scene. So in the final scene, all the girls meet down in the hallway and they're all talking and they're giving Kandi and Porsha props. And of course, Kenya's thirsty ass is acting like she's auditioning for Mama's Love Part 2. Talking about, you should have casted me, Kandi. I didn't know y'all was going to be dancing. I could have been in there twirling and everything else. And Kandi's looking at her like, no, bitch. We got our cast already. We're not casting at this point in time. Maybe next year, okay? So that whole little scene was funny. And then they end up with the captions of telling what everybody's up to and everything else. And then what happened later on that night is that NeNe ended up meeting up with Andy for WWHL, and everybody went in watching that show. It was good to kind of see NeNe's point of view from certain things, but she was throwing a lot of shade. She also let it be known that she's no longer cool with Cynthia, and there was a lot of tea being spilled. You know, it was just really, it was like a real shady interview. It was a lot of tea being spilled, you know, but I enjoyed watching it. So that was basically the season finale. I thought the season ended up really good. This has to be one of the longest seasons of Real Housewives of Atlanta that I've ever seen. I've literally been doing recaps since November of this year. So I'm glad that it's finally over. I cannot wait to see the reunion next week. From the looks of the reunion, it's going to be really good. It looks like Porsha beat the hell out of Kenya, so I cannot wait. So go ahead, leave a comment. Let me know your thoughts on this final episode of the Real Housewives of Atlanta. And also let me know what you thought about NeNe talking to Andy last night. And how did you feel her interview went with Andy? So let me know your thoughts. If you're not following me, make sure you follow me. I am at LovelyT on Twitter. And I will be doing weekly recaps for Love and Hip Hop ATL, so make sure you tune in to my recaps when that show starts. So talk to you guys later. Deuces.